What happens when a beloved morning TV host comes face to face with royal entitlement gone wrong? It only took 23 seconds for Meghan Markle to destroy any remaining goodwill she had with British television audiences last night on The Lorraine Kelly Show. This is the exclusive inside story of the most shocking celebrity meltdown caught on live television. And trust me, you need to hear every single word that was said. Picture this. The cameras are rolling, the studio lights are blazing hot, and millions of viewers across Britain are settling in with their morning tea, expecting nothing more than the usual cheerful chat that Lorraine Kelly has been serving up for decades. What they got instead was a masterclass in how quickly things can spiral when someone thinks they are above everyone else. Lorraine Kelly has been the queen of morning television for over 30 years. She built her career on kindness, warmth, and treating every single guest with respect, no matter if they are Hollywood superstars or ordinary people with extraordinary stories. Her Scottish charm and genuine nature have made her a national treasure, someone who viewers invite into their homes every single morning without fail. So when Meghan Markle agreed to appear on the show, it should have been a match made in television heaven. The producers were thrilled. Here was their chance to give viewers an intimate, personal conversation with one of the most talked about women in the world. They cleared the entire second half of the show, brought in extra cameras, and even upgraded the flowers in the studio. But from the moment Meghan walked into that studio, something felt different. The usual warmth that fills the air when Lorraine meets a new guest was nowhere to be found. Instead, there was a tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Lorraine, being the professional she is, started the interview exactly as she always does, with a genuine smile and that familiar Scottish lilt that has comforted millions over the years. She welcomed her guest to the show. Meghan, it is absolutely lovely to have you here with us this morning. I know our viewers have been so excited to hear from you. How are you feeling today? It was a simple question. The kind of gentle opener that Lorraine has used thousands of times before. The kind of question that usually helps guests relax and settle into the conversation. But Meghan's response was anything but relaxed. Well, Lorraine, I have to say I am a bit surprised by the setup here. I was expecting something a little more, shall we say, elevated for someone of my profile. The words hung in the air like a dark cloud. Lorraine's smile never wavered, but if you look closely, you could see the tiniest flicker of confusion in her eyes. In all her years of interviewing everyone from prime ministers to pop stars, she had never heard anything quite like this. Oh well, we do try to make all our guests comfortable. Is there something specific you need? We are happy to adjust anything for you. Lorraine's response was pure class. Even when faced with what was clearly a complaint disguised as a comment, she remained gracious and professional. But Meghan was just getting started. It is just that I am used to a certain standard when I do television appearances. The lighting in here is quite harsh, and I noticed the flowers are not the white roses I specifically requested. My team sent very detailed requirements weeks ago. Now, let me pause here to explain something important. The Lorraine Show is not some thrown-together local news program. This is ITV's flagship morning show, watched by millions, with a production budget that most shows can only dream of. The lighting is professionally designed, the set is beautiful, and yes, there were flowers, gorgeous ones, but apparently not the exact specific type that Meghan had demanded. Lorraine, still keeping her composure, responded with the kind of grace that has made her a beloved figure for decades. I do apologize if we missed that detail, Meghan. Our production team works incredibly hard to make sure every guest feels welcome. Perhaps we can focus on the conversation and give our viewers the chance to get to know you better? It was a perfect deflection, a gentle way to move past the complaint and get to what really mattered, the interview that millions of people had tuned in to see. But Meghan was not having it. I suppose that will have to do. Though I must say this is not what I was expecting when I agreed to come on. I hope the questions will be more sophisticated than what I have been seeing on British television lately. The insult was crystal clear. Here was Meghan Markle, sitting in the studio of one of Britain's most respected television presenters, essentially saying that British television was beneath her standards. The same British television that had welcomed her with open arms when she first arrived in the country. The same British television that had covered her wedding like it was the event of the century. But Lorraine Kelly did not get to where she is by letting guests walk all over her or insult her industry. With that trademark Scottish steel wrapped in velvet, she responded. Well, Meghan, I have been doing television for over 30 years, and I have found that the best interviews happen when we treat our guests with respect and ask the questions that our viewers really want to hear. So shall we begin? There it was. Polite, professional, but with just enough edge to let Meghan know that she was not going to be allowed to run roughshod over the interview. Lorraine had drawn a line in the sand without raising her voice or losing her smile. But instead of taking the hint, instead of recognizing that she was speaking to a consummate professional who knew her business inside and out, Meghan doubled down. I just want to make sure we are all on the same page about how this is going to go. I have certain topics that are off limits, and I expect those boundaries to be respected. I am not here to be attacked or to deal with the same tired questions that every other British journalist asks. The audacity was breathtaking. Here she was, appearing as a guest on someone else's show, in someone else's studio, speaking to someone else's audience. And she was trying to dictate not just what could be discussed, but insulting British journalism in the process. Lorraine's response was measured, but you could sense the steel beneath the surface. Meghan, we always discuss boundaries with our guests beforehand, and we certainly did with your team. We are not here to attack anyone. We are here to have a conversation. But I do need to ask the questions that our viewers want answers to. That is my job. Your job, Meghan repeated, and there was something in the way she said those two words that made everyone in the studio hold their breath. Let me be clear about something, Lorraine. I am doing you a favor by being here. This show, this network, they need me more than I need them. So perhaps we should remember who is really in charge of this conversation. The silence that followed was deafening. In 30 years of television, Lorraine Kelly had never, not once, had a guest speak to her like that. Not the politicians who tried to dodge her questions. Not the celebrities who showed up hungover and difficult. Not anyone. For just a moment, the mask of professional composure slipped, and viewers got to see something they had never seen before. Lorraine Kelly, genuinely shocked, but it lasted only a heartbeat before that professional smile returned. Though this time it was different, colder. I see, Lorraine said, and those two simple words carried more weight than any angry outburst ever could. Well, Meghan, let me be clear about something as well. This is my show. These are my viewers, and this is my studio. I have been welcoming guests here with respect and kindness for decades, and I expect the same in return. The temperature in the studio dropped 10 degrees. The camera operators exchanged glances. The sound technicians leaned forward. Everyone could sense that something momentous was happening, but nobody knew quite what. Meghan, however, seemed oblivious to the shift in atmosphere. If anything, she appeared to take Lorraine's response as a challenge. Respect goes both ways, Lorraine, and frankly, I am not seeing much respect for what I bring to this table. Do you have any idea how many interview requests I turned down? How many major networks would kill for this opportunity? Actually, Lorraine replied, her Scottish accent becoming more pronounced as it always did when she was truly irritated. I do know, because every single guest who sits in that chair tells me the same thing. The difference is, most of them remember that they are guests. It was a masterful response, polite enough that no one could call it rude, but pointed enough that everyone understood exactly what she meant. Meghan Markle was not special in the way she thought she was. She was simply another guest who had forgotten her manners. But instead of backing down, instead of recognizing that she had pushed things too far, Meghan escalated. I think you are forgetting who you are talking to, Lorraine. I am not some local celebrity here to promote a charity bake sale. I am a global figure, a member of the royal family, and I deserve to be treated as such. The words echoed around the studio like a slap in the face. A member of the royal family. The same royal family that she had publicly criticized, sued, and walked away from. The same royal family whose private conversations she had shared with television audiences around the world. Lorraine's response was swift and devastating. Former member, I believe, would be more accurate. And yes, Meghan, I know exactly who you are. The question is, do you know where you are? You are in Britain, on British television, speaking to British viewers. The same viewers who welcomed you with open arms when you joined the royal family. The same viewers who watched your wedding and wished you well. Perhaps a little gratitude might be more appropriate than lectures about respect. The silence that followed was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop in that studio. Meghan's face went through a series of expressions: shock, anger, disbelief, as she realized that for the first time in a very long time, someone was not going to bow down to her demands. I cannot believe you just said that to me, Meghan said, her voice rising. Do you have any idea what I have been through? What I have sacrificed? What I have endured? Actually, Lorraine replied, her voice steady as a rock. I do know, because you have told everyone, multiple times, on multiple platforms, in great detail. It was brutal in its simplicity. No shouting, no drama, just a statement of absolute fact delivered with surgical precision. Meghan had indeed shared her story, extensively, lucratively, and repeatedly. Meghan stood up so fast that her chair nearly tipped over. This is exactly the kind of treatment I was talking about. This hostile, jealous, small-minded attitude that I have had to deal with since the day I arrived in this country. I will not sit here and be disrespected like this. Small-minded? Lorraine repeated, and for the first time in the interview, there was genuine fire in her voice. Meghan, I have interviewed prime ministers, presidents, Nobel Prize winners, and yes, royalty. Real royalty who understand that respect is earned, not demanded. I have never, not once in 30 years, had to explain to a guest how to behave with basic courtesy. The cameras kept rolling. The producers in the control room were frantically trying to decide whether to cut to commercial, but this was television gold, the kind of moment that careers are made of, and they knew it. Meghan was now pacing behind her chair, her composure completely gone. I knew this was a mistake. I knew I should not have lowered myself to come on this second-rate show. My people warned me that British media would try to tear me down, and here you are, proving them right. Second-rate show. The words hit Lorraine like a physical blow. This was her life's work, her legacy, a show that had brought comfort and joy to millions of people for decades. A show that had raised millions for charity, launched careers, and been a constant source of positivity in people's lives. When Lorraine spoke again, her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of 30 years of broadcasting experience. Meghan, I think it is time for you to leave. The words hung in the air like thunder. In the control room, jaws dropped. On social media, phones started buzzing as viewers began frantically texting their friends. This was not supposed to happen. Guests did not get thrown off the Lorraine show. Lorraine Kelly did not lose her temper. But here it was, happening live on television. Excuse me? Meghan said, clearly not believing what she had just heard. I said it is time for you to leave. Security will escort you out. This interview is over. Lorraine's voice was calm, professional, final. She had made her decision, and there was no going back. You cannot just throw me off your show, Meghan sputtered. I have a contract. I have rights. Actually, Lorraine replied, standing up herself now, I can. This is live television, Meghan. When a guest becomes disruptive, when they insult the show, the audience, and the host, we have every right to end the interview. Goodbye. With that, Lorraine turned to camera one, the main camera that had been following this entire exchange, and delivered what would become one of the most famous moments in British television history. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize to our viewers for what you have just witnessed. In 30 years of broadcasting, I have never had to ask a guest to leave, but sometimes, enough is simply enough. We'll be right back after this break with our cooking segment, where I promise you will be treated to much better behavior. The cameras cut to commercial, but the damage was done. In less than 15 minutes, Meghan Markle had managed to destroy any remaining goodwill she had with British audiences, and Lorraine Kelly had shown the world what happens when kindness is mistaken for weakness. As security quietly escorted Meghan from the studio, Lorraine remained at her desk, taking deep breaths and preparing for the rest of her show. Because that is what professionals do. They carry on, they serve their audience, and they never, ever let entitled guests forget who is really in charge. The aftermath was swift and decisive. Social media exploded with support for Lorraine. Viewers praised her for standing up to entitled behavior. Fellow broadcasters applauded her professionalism under pressure. And Meghan Markle learned a lesson that perhaps she should have learned long ago. Respect is not demanded, it is earned. And when you burn bridges, sometimes there is no way back across.